GitHub is back with a brand new season of GitHub for Beginners, and this time, we're answering the questions you've been asking. Like, how do I even start with GitHub issues? What are actions, and what's Markdown again? We're covering it all. Building your portfolio with GitHub Pages, setting up actions, collabing in VS Code, contributing to open source, the stuff no one really explains when you're new. This season, we've teamed up with engineers from GitHub to break it all down. The folks who build this stuff are going to show you how to use it. If you're just getting started with GitHub or you've been faking your way through it, this is for you. Follow along so you don't miss the new season. Hey everyone, welcome to Open Source Friday. That was quite the dramatic entrance, I must say. I don't know why I chose that music last night, but I was just so obsessed with it. I'm just like, yeah, let's get it. But I'm Kadesha, welcome to the stream. And today we have the core maintainer, the founder, the extraordinaire, like John Extraordinaire from Vuetify, here to talk to us all about one of the most popular, like CSS frameworks out there. So let's get into it. Hey.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me.
Wasn't that quite the drama, the music?
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty intense.
I was like, is this a movie? But yeah, welcome to the stream. Happy to have you. I see a lot of like hype in the comments. Exactly. That's exactly why I chose that music. But how are you doing today, John? Welcome.
I'm doing well. Thank you. Can't complain. It's Friday, end of the week.
Yeah, literally. So let's just jump right into the conversation because one thing about this stream, time just goes. So tell us about yourself. Who is John? What do you do? And yeah, let's start there.
Sure, yeah. So my name is John Leider. I'm the original founder of the JavaScript framework Vuetify. Also the CEO of Vuetify, the company that manages it. And I've been working in open source for a little over 10 years, specifically mainly on Vuetify. And in that time, we've grown to be the #1 framework for Vue for users, and we've started to kind of expand out an ecosystem around Vuetify to help foster developers to be able to make web apps and applications in Vue. And yeah, so I've been doing that for, like I said, about 10 years. I've been a developer for only a few more years than that, so about 12 in total. Nice. I'm married with 3 kids, and nice. I live in Keller, Texas.
Nice. Well, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. So for those who don't know, right, and for those who don't use Vue, and I think I said CSS earlier, I meant Vue, like a Vue framework. For those who don't use Vue, tell us about like what is Vue and what is Vuetify and how did it come about?
Sure, absolutely. So for me, my development journey kind of started back in 2013, 2014. I began as a back-end developer and eventually started to cross over to the front end, started to work with things like React and Angular and try to see how I could build web applications to work with a back end. And I actually came across a video from Jeffrey Way. He's the founder, creator, owner of Laircasts. And he was doing a video on this new up-and-coming JavaScript framework named Vue. And the
Mm.
reason why it was so cool was because I think at the time, um, it was really difficult to do hot module reloading and dev with React in certain ways, and Vue was able to just do it in the browser. And this is like an amazing
Mm.
thing that was very beginner friendly. And even though it's moved to the composition API now, originally Vue was options API based, and that was a very structured kind of way of handling things for someone like me. I was struggling in React and Angular. And anyway, so I started on this video tutorial series, kind of got into it, started working with Vue, and slowly but surely, started kind of become an advocate for it, and started building small little websites and introducing it at my places of work. And about 2016 area, I think at the end of 2015, Vue 2 was launched into alpha. You could probably fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's at the end of 2015. And I thought, what a great idea, what a great way to learn the new version of Vue by
Mm-hmm.
building like a library. And at the time, this library wasn't Vuetify. This is something called Materials. Actually, I forget what it's
Mm.
called. But it was like Materials UI or something like that. It was there was a popular CSS framework named Materialize CSS, and
Oh.
anyways, wrapper for that. And I got to a point to where I had kind of ported over everything that they had to offer, and I had to kind of make a decision. Like, I can either wait for them to make changes or updates, or start going into their system and trying to make changes and updates to move the framework forward, so that then this piece that I've built on top of it can move forward. Or I can make my own on top of theirs, but I would still kind of be attached to them in terms of like as an ecosystem thing. So I started playing around with making something that was not tied to an underlying piece of functionality. And around this time, if anyone who's an older developer might remember that there was an issue with someone unpublishing a left pad function from npm,
Mm-hmm.
and it like shut down the internet.
Oh, wow.
Decided like, okay, I'm going to do any dependencies, right? So Vuetify was going to be like something from scratch. So like I built this thing from like, no dependencies from scratch, and I was using it for some client work. And anyways, one of my colleagues at work had walked by whenever I was playing around with it, and thought it looked pretty cool, and said, hey man, are you going to open source that one as well? Because I had already created the other open source library. I think it had like 100 GitHub likes or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I ended up open sourcing it, officially released in alpha December of 2016. And basically
Wow.
what and here's what Vuetify is to Vue. So, if Vue was the blueprints for a house, it was the walls, it was the foundation, it was all of the things that you need, the wiring, everything that you need in place for a house to work. Vuetify is the decoration, the doors,
Mm.
the highlights, the things that use that foundation. So we take Vue's functionality and using their design principles, create single file components that are reusable. And in particular, Vuetify is based off of material design, based off a
Mm-hmm.
design system that then the user can just grab a component and go. It has a large API pool. It has tons of options to choose from. And the user has to spend less time worrying about, does this component or piece of functionality that I need work, right? Or bugs or issues, or do I just,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want to worry about? I just implement it, and then I, put my data in, and I move on, right? And that's what most
Yeah.
people want to do. So yeah, it just kind of started out with, me working on, just some side projects. And then when I released Vuetify, it kind of took off in December and then died down in January of 2017. And I just kind of kept at it until about October of that year. I had a a pretty popular GitHub post that I made regarding like, hey, I want to do this full time, and ended up at the end of that month quitting my job and been working, in open source, either full time or semi full time ever since.
Nice. That's awesome. And like now you work full time on Vuetify. Like now it turned into a full ecosystem, right? What was the moment that you noticed that the project crossed the line from being just a library to being this full ecosystem?
A couple months ago. I mean, honestly, I've a lot of the stuff that we're working on now has been like a napkin idea for a very long time. A lot of the functionality that came out with Vuetify 3 when it was initially released was, napkin ideas that I had early on that I didn't know how to do. And now kind of where we've evolved with Vuetify, especially with the introduction of new open source repositories that basically, and I could talk about this, but essentially I'm taking everything from Vuetify that's been battle tested for the past decade, and I've taken that functionality and I've distilled it down into reusable composables and components. So not just headless composables, also headless components, the actual underlying composables that allow the user to essentially get to about as close to the metal as you can get with Vue and performance, but also having at your disposal a lot of very powerful functionality. A lot of the principles that we follow for how we handle UI development and how UI state is handled and how components are built has been the same since the beginning and has kind of been a standard in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases. And, we've taken that, and now what it's going to be going on in the future is, and we've actually already started this, is Vuetify. So we just released Vuetify 4, but Vuetify 5 has already begun development, being refactored to use Vuetify 0 under the hood. And basically, it will be our way of showcasing, hey, Vuetify 0 is a headless meta framework for building component libraries. Here's Vuetify as an example of a massive project consuming this, and kind of to show people, hey, this is something that you could use to absolutely control your own design system, but know that you're having like the best tools on the market.
Yeah. Nice. That's really good. And so like I know I glazed over it, but how impactful was the left pad incident back in what, like 2016, to you building Vuetify? So you said like, I'm not going to use any dependencies. I'm just going to build it all from scratch. Have you kept that mentality throughout the years, or has it changed?
It's pretty much the same. It's slightly shifted.
Okay.
And here's how it shifted. So, well, first, Vuetify 0 is actually the first runtime dependency of the framework.
Okay.
So in version 5, the user will need to, it'll happen for them automatically, but as a part of Vuetify working, it will use Vuetify 0 under the hood. But the only difference between back then and now, because we still don't do the only dependencies we do are development and build level dependencies. But the only change or deviation from that is the word I'm looking for is, so we utilize the adapter paradigm a lot in Vuetify, in that we have a process. If you would imagine, you have a checkout, and that checkout, you can do credit card or PayPal or Amazon card or whatever, and all three of those end up going to the same adapter controller so that it all does the same thing. So we do that a lot for our composables in Vuetify, where we'll say, okay, here is our date functionality. We provide a baseline to satisfy the functionality that we primarily serve in the framework. But then we offer the ability where you can use a adapter. So you want to use Luxin or Moment or Temporal. you can just swap in an adapter and everything still
Nice.
works. So that's the closest we've got to having dependency, in that we still provide a foundational bundled with the code, adapter from us that just works. And then if you have necessity for additional features that we don't offer, like for example, we have localization system built into Vuetify, but we also have the ability where people can just use an adapter and use Vue i18n, and then that does all of the heavy lifting, and Vuetify still works as normal. And that's actually the principles that Vuetify 0 are built on from the bottom up. So yes, in a long way to answer your question, we still don't do dependencies. It kind of, for me, it's not that I don't think that there's a benefit for people to do that, like for people to not have dependencies. But just in my particular case, I always felt that it served us well. It was a lesson early on that didn't necessarily affect us, but it had a lasting impact on me. So, I've just,
I see. Yeah.
we've never absolutely had to have a dependency, so we've just kept away from it.
Nice. And I bet, like, people that use Vuetify feel that difference because it's not so heavy, with all the dependency luggage that typically comes with other platforms or other frameworks. But yeah, let's see a demo of Vuetify. I
Sure.
personally have not used Vue. I am a React girl. And this brings me to a question, like, why do you think Vue isn't more popular? Do you think it's because there isn't that like enterprise level backing like what React has, or even like Angular has? Why do you think it's not more widely used?
That's a good question. I don't know if I am qualified to to give a meaningful answer to that. But what I could say is my thought process is that React has a very, very large ecosystem. And when it
Mm,
comes to tech investment nowadays, I believe that for people that are investing in tech, it is in some cases a safer potential return on their investment for what they're working with, as opposed to something like Vue that is still growing, to my knowledge. I haven't checked at which rate, how fast it is. I also think that one of the things that Vue kind of rocketed to the top is that it had a lot of groundbreaking stuff that was very user friendly. And
mhm.
while the Vue macros of today have really advanced since Vue 3 initially came out, it's still not, the primary way that we interact with Vue nowadays is the composition API. In fact, if you work in Vue in React projects, I'd argue that they're more the same than they are different than they were, half a decade ago, in terms of
Yeah.
like what they're providing, and and how you interact with the systems. And since everything's kind of based off of Beat as well, and Evan's been
Yeah.
building that, it kind of homogenizes things. And I don't know, maybe it's just, I think overall it's probably business related decisions where
Mm.
there's just a large market pool of developers. There's a lot of mature software. And that's actually kind of one of the reasons why we maybe could have focused on Vuetify 0 or other Vuetify pieces being multi-platform. Work on Angular, works on React, works on Vue at the same time, and that probably would have been possible. It would have definitely been considerably more work, but definitely possible. But I really felt strongly about just really building something that was from the ground up, using the best practices and principles for Vue software development, and just making it the best possible piece of software that it could be. And just focusing on one framework, I think, allows that to happen better. So hopefully maybe I can be in impact on more people coming to the ecosystem.
Yeah. All right, let's see how to
Okay,
use
yeah. All right.
Vuetify.
So this is the Vuetify 4 landing page. Like I said, we just recently launched version 4, which isn't as flashy as maybe a major release might be because of all of the underlying work that we put
Mm,
in to what this release means. So I'll kind of scroll through here as I'm scrolling through here and just showing some of the new homepage. Talk a little bit about what version 4 was really quick and what its purpose was or is, excuse me. And that is, it is a bridge that moves Vuetify one step closer to an unstyled first approach that begins with Vuetify 0 at the bottom, and it moves its way up to where Vuetify implements Vuetify 0 using its defaults and design systems to be able to demonstrate the styling. But the one step between that is Vuetify having proper integration with Tailwind and Uno CSS, which is now the modern kind of in the modern dev stack, no matter where you go.
yeah.
So most of the things that are actually shipping with version 3 are what are laying the foundation for us to, one, existing people that are already doing style manipulation in Vuetify now have a much more robust way of modifying those styles, something that is compatible with latest Tailwind 4. And we've also introduced some new plugins to give users additional benefits of this new tech stack as well. For example, for like existing, and I won't go on too long about this, but for like existing Vuetify users, we're now shipping this Uno CSS Vuetify preset, which essentially what it does, it replaces all of the Vuetify's hard-coded utilities automatically with Uno CSS, and essentially allows, because none of Vuetify's components are actually built using our utilities, so we can actually, these are now interchangeable. But one of the cool benefits for existing users is you can now just install Uno CSS preset Vuetify and automatically get upwards of a 70% bundle reduction for either usually for CSS, but definitely a lot for JavaScript as well.
Yeah, wow.
Just by hooking this plugin up. And then this is actually consequently what Vuetify 0's documentation is built with for styling. So one of the things that we try to do on all our documentation websites is the website that you're seeing is made with the product that you're wanting to use. The Vuetify documentation is built using Vuetify. Well, now the new Vuetify 0, which is where we've been putting a lot of effort into, is essentially, excuse me, everything that you're seeing here is built with Vuetify 0. And the only thing that we add on are Uno CSS, CSS utilities. So this is built exactly like a modern app, but using Vuetify 0 at its core. And essentially, when I'm showing you this right here, all of these features, specifically the composables, this right here is everything that makes Vuetify work. There's a couple things missing here and there, but essentially this little stack of composables, about 28 or so, is all of the functionality in Vuetify abstracted down. And all we're doing now, and we've started porting over, is porting over Vuetify 0 onto Vuetify 5, is that we're just combining them, composing them in different ways to solve the problems. That most of the issues are already solved in terms of state management for what UI looks like, for how to handle plugins and how to handle, like, for example, you start a project out, right? So you start a project out and you say, what pieces do I need? Do I need to have the ability to control permissions if someone can see something or not see something? Do I need to store things locally and persist it for the user? Do I need to have support
Hmm.
multiple different types of themes, like all these different options, right? And the idea is that they all work together. And if you use whatever you use, that's it. So for example, all of the functionality in Vuetify Zero uses our built-in logger. But if the user doesn't choose to opt into the logger, it'll just work. And they
Yeah.
just won't have that extra benefits of using that functionality, but they will, they will have a smaller bundle size. And if they choose to in the future, then they can just hook up. Okay, well, I want this new logger now, and they can hook it up and everything will just work.
Yeah. And I may have missed it, but what is Vuetify Zero and how is it different from Vuetify?
Yeah, so Vuetify Zero is, Vuetify, everything on this website is, pretty much the public functionality in Vuetify.
Okay.
Everything that the user can opt in to use. So if you
Okay.
come to something like, we can go to an autocomplete and we can click on here and we can make a selection. Okay. So the underlying functionality that determines what does making a selection even mean? What does that look like as a model? How does this interact with view, and what ways is, when we click Georgia, how is that shown through UI? See, we have this is the multiple select, right? So all this stuff is just, if you break it down, is just state controls. We've got a couple, we have some items, and those items are either selected or not selected. Well,
Uh-huh.
all of the functionality that powers this isn't public. We use it, you can see in the repository, it's visible to everybody, but it's not something that you can explicitly import and use yourself. So what Vuetify Zero is it's that underlying
Ah.
functionality that exists in Vuetify itself, but distilled down into reusable public composables. So these are the exact, as low as you can go to the metal tools that we are using to build with Vuetify, that is now made in a way that you can do the same thing. So you want to build a component framework, we give you all of the pieces, and then we're going to actually use those pieces and show you how to do it, and then also show that it works with Vuetify 5 being something that we're going to release with full Vuetify Zero support.
Got you. Okay, understood. So how do we build with Vuetify Zero then?
Well, so right now, I have a lot of things baked in for alpha. So if you end up wanting to check out the website, which I recommend people do, I know that everyone's moving towards agentic programming, and not a lot of time is being
Hmm.
spent on documentation. So I have this unnerving desire to try to solve that, because I enjoy creating good documentation experiences. So when you come in here, one of the cool things about Vuetify Zero is, straight off the bat, we have built-in AI right into the page using Claude. So you could say you're on a page and you want to say, tell me about this feature.
Hmm.
And we've got it hooked up with a Vuetify MCP server, which allows us to be able to provide, the best possible up-to-date tech for people building. We have this, not only do we have this Ask AI, we have built-in search, we have skill filters. So if you're coming into um, uh, something new in Vue and you're like, I don't really know much, because building a framework is kind of an advanced thing, it's like no problem. You can
Hmm.
actually go into a skill filter and say, I want to see content that's made for beginners. And then you'll see it boiled down to, in a lot of things, tools that a beginner could use to work with Vuetify Zero.
Hmm.
So that's like the first step. So you got beginner stuff. There's tooling with Vuetify MCP and Vuetify CLI, which helps you install anything that we offer publicly from our ecosystem, and helps you set up a lot of our AI tooling. We support all of the latest trends for providing LLMs information regarding
Mm-hmm.
website. We've got something it's in development, but it's called Skills, and the idea is we're going to teach people how to use this with built-in
Yeah.
integrated guides, tours, all kinds of stuff, just to provide them good value. And then, last but not least, we have things like we have a built-in playground, so you can actually use Vuetify Zero in the browser, and you can experiment with it. You can add and create files. In fact, this is essentially Vuetify's playground, because
Right.
we have an actual playground for Vuetify, which is essentially the same underpinnings, but we rewrote the playground, and now it's going to be in Vuetify Zero and has a lot more functionality, and will be a big part of our learning process for not only teaching people how to use this, but also making it a good experience for being able to use your browser, like basically any way that you can come at it. We've got
Mm-hmm.
MCP support, we've got in playground, we have tutorials and all kinds of functionality that's meant to back up the knowledge behind it. So the hope is, providing all this information will entice people to say, okay, hey, this is something that we can build a product on, because it's the same stuff that Vuetify uses and will be using, but now without any of the styling.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So what I'm hearing is, like Beautify started out using the material design principles essentially, but
Mhm.
now you're kind of moving towards a unstyled type of framework. Is there a reason for that? Like, was that a request by the community, or do you think that's where, like that's the direction of web development these days?
Well, definitely something requested by the community. The material design styling has been a little bit on the decline over the years.
Mm,
It's been something that Google pseudo commits to,
mm-hmm.
um, and they end up doing a lot of, I guess, research and design for developing these design systems. But anyway, so over the years, it's still a good design system, but not for everybody. So
Yeah.
what the thought process was, for us, Vuetify is already built in a way that's very conducive towards being unstyled. We just
Mm-hmm.
didn't have tech in the right place, and what going forward will allow us to do, because I haven't even talked about, we don't have time to talk about obviously, but Vuetify Paper, which is the visual aspects of
Yeah.
Vuetify pulled out. And then the idea is that Vuetify Zero and Vuetify Paper, so Vuetify Zero is the framework, the underlying functionality. Vuetify Paper is the visual aspects, the actual components, and then Vuetify itself takes both of those and combines them and enhances all of the different plugins that are available, and makes some decisions about functionality. But ultimately, and hopefully within the next year, will just be a config swap out, and then you can go from material design to Bulma or
Mhm.
whatever other design system that we end up supporting or that you want to set up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing that Beautify has Beautify Play, Bin, Create, Beautify Link, Studio, Store, Figma. Like it's so many tools that comes with Beautify.
I just kind of build stuff that I use, and
Yeah.
if people like it, that's cool. But like for me, I kind of use all parts of these in my day to day, and it also allows me to test our tools out
Yeah.
with AI, because I spend a lot of time working in the terminal with Claude Code, and
Yeah.
it's become a necessity for me to be able to do things like, oh, I can have a link created with Vuetify links automatically with the AI, because of we have the ability to set that up with Vuetify MCP, or save bins, or create new playgrounds. Like everything that's in here, like you can literally come into here and ask questions, have something novel created, and then potentially open that immediately. Like we have this example that was just generated by the AI, and
Mm-hmm.
we can click the button and open it up into a window, into a playground that's working. So that's pretty powerful. I think it's going to be conducive to people learning. We've put a lot of effort into making the docs about the best experience you could possibly ask for, with the ability to configure all kinds of things to make it a good experience, whether you're colorblind or have difficulty seeing. We take accessibility uh, very seriously, and it's one of something that Vuetify has typically been known for. We did good in at the end of version 1 and in version 2, but version 3 left a little bit to be desired. So we're definitely reintroducing the underlying core of the framework with Vuetify 0 as a accessibility
Yeah.
first approach as well.
Yeah, I like that. And do you think a lot of the changes that you're implementing in Vuetify Zero is primarily being driven by the AI of it all, just like by the massive acceleration of AI in everything software?
Well, for me, honestly, the way that I work, it's been
Yeah,
super powerful because Vuetify has gotten to a point where the ecosystem is large enough to where I may embark on a task that involves making changes to 4 separate repositories that requires an
yeah,
update to a database and syncing releases with, so that actually makes it much more difficult to make meaningful change throughout the ecosystem, because you have to switch so many contexts of not only projects, but how your vision and that project's code changes to make your overall what you're trying to work on happen. But now, at least for me, I spend most of my time kind of orchestrating. I have a pretty clear vision of what I want to do with Vuetify and the Vuetify ecosystem. And really, what Claude for me has unlocked is, I've been able to configure it in a way that 95% of the time, the result that it's producing is exactly what I would produce myself, if not
nice.
better. But now able to do stuff like, hey, I need to add a new feature to the admin that allows me to create a Vuetify link whenever I make a new banner. Like we have a thing called Vuetify One, which is like our package that's on every single Vuetify website that kind of connects everything together. I'm not signed into it right now, but it basically you sign in and it's like you have all of our websites are connected with the ability to see your whole account with Vuetify, your bins, your playgrounds, studios, links, etc., so on and so forth. But so I had to go in and had to make a change to Vuetify One to enable to pull from this new link from the Vuetify API, and then I had to release Vuetify One, and then I had to update Vuetify Admin. And instead of like having to
Mm,
plan my day out with, okay, I'm going to this repository, I need to do this, and trying to cook my flow. Instead, I'm focusing on the plan for how it's orchestrated at all, across all repositories at the same time, and the ability to push features if you know what you want and you have very strong like configuration underpinnings for your AI. Like it's, you're not spending a lot of time correcting it. It's not writing code that doesn't look like the code that you write. It's being useful. And instead of, happening to work on one problem, I often have 5 or 6 terminals open at the same time, just going through
mhm.
them. I go through one, type, work through, figure out a problem, move to the next, same on, throughout the day. And
Yeah.
so for me personally, it's kind of said, okay, now I feel like I can actually deliver on some stuff with Vuetify, because I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I got little kids. So, if you think about it, as a programmer trying to like sit down and get engaged in your code base, to actually write code, that takes a little bit of reorienting of your brain. And if you're having to pause to get up, well, you got to go to practice, or you got to go to a recital or something like that. It's just extra things that make it difficult to be effective in programming. And
Yeah.
now, kind of, especially with the things like OpenClaw and the ability to, code while you're on your phone,
Yeah.
it's kind of opened up the ability to still progress, for at least for me, to still progress on things, but not necessarily be impacted because I'm unable to focus on this one project because I have a lot of stuff going on. Instead, I just focused on the plan and I have the AI execute it. And most of my time is spent reviewing and not trying to get
Right.
into a mental state switched between multiple projects.
Right, right. And this is what I'm noticing as well. Our role is quickly changing from writer to planner and reviewer. Kind of like, orchestrating
Mm-hmm.
AI tools to do what needs to be done and giving them enough information so they can do it properly. Nice. That's pretty cool. So like where do you draw the line, John, when it comes to using AI while building Vuetify Zero, right? What do you refuse to let it touch in a code base? Or is
Interesting.
there no line? Is it just like,
Well,
go
for me,
forth and
I don't
do?
think there's a line. I don't think there's a line. Well, for me
Yeah.
particularly, the code that I'm working in, I have I've been a part of at least 4 complete rewrites of the framework since 2016.
Yeah.
So I'm very acutely aware of how things connect in terms of like kind of logically, and it's I've because I have that track record in history, I have been able to spend a lot of time pulling out and distilling from that my habits and behaviors, using
Mm-hmm.
AI, and spend time configuring my tools. And I'm pretty comfortable. I run in dangerous permission mode on all the time. Like there's nothing. Uh, I mean, I do have WSL2, so it's like it's kind of like it's in a Docker container. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with it. For me, it came pretty naturally. I never understood. Well, I do. I guess I can say that's wrong. I do understand why some people get upset. It's the same reason that people get
Yeah.
upset. Like a new patch comes out for a video game that changes something of how they play, and not everyone's going to be happy about that. So for people
Mm-hmm.
that derived a lot of self worth and satisfaction from writing the code, if they're not able to find another way to kind of hone that, what excites them about doing the code, then it is going to be kind of a difficult transition because
Yeah,
finding your identity from the code you write is
exactly.
going to be very difficult, especially. I mean, this year's probably going to be crazy.
Yes, the year just started and look all
Yeah.
that's happened already. So what as a someone who's been a maintainer for, a long time, in a good way, what do you think but like what skills do you think maintainers should be doubling down on as AI gets better? Is it architecture, tastes,
Mm.
API design, community?
Mm.
What do you think there?
If I had to pick a focus, because obviously the ones that you mentioned are all important in their own right. But what I would say is it's the perfect time to where if there's a gap in the market and you're
Mhm.
motivated, that you can fill that gap. You don't really even
Mm.
have to have all you really. I mean, for all intents, obviously there's caveats to that. There's different. I work in TypeScript, which is one of the most popular languages right now, which means there's lots of information on the internet about it, which means models are typically trained very well on it. And the way that I code and program has a very you know our tech stack in Vuetify across the board is pretty much the same. The only difference is like our API, which includes a couple different packages. So like I'm very well honed around a certain like subset of packages. But
Mhm.
I just oh man, I lost my trail right there. Lost my train of thought. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that um, that overall it's a net benefit for developers. It's a net benefit for people that have ideas and have grit. and can
Yeah.
grind, but just don't. But circumstantially, because being a programmer, at least for me, it wasn't like a super easy thing. I had to work very, very hard at it, um,
Yeah.
like most people do with their profession. So um, I think now it's probably the most inevitable. Like I've been hearing people for a long time talk about our jobs as developers changing, and I've been pretty well ingrained with AI since the beginning. I've used so many different, pretty much
Tools.
everything that's available on the market over the years. And in the past 4 months, I've never seen movement like I've seen before,
Yeah.
where there's so many things being shipped now by companies that it's like like I said, it's the best time to be an entrepreneur right now. If you
It
have something that
is.
you enjoy doing and there's a gap in the market, you just need to do some research
Yeah.
and be a little bit patient. You don't have to necessarily learn how to code. And that's also kind of one of the ways that I'm trying to make Vuetify Zero, making it so that it's easy to work with in
Ah,
this generation of AI, and hopefully
yeah.
trying to make it a good experience for people that are going to be probably primarily coding with agents,
AI.
maybe not spending a
Yeah.
lot of time in the docs or anything like that. So yeah, we'll see.
I love that. I mean, like leading into the vibe coding, like I know I like that you're thinking about making Vuetify accessible to people who are primarily coding with AI because
Mm-hmm.
like you, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think software developers have to adapt and have to learn another tool because that's where everything's going.
I mean, I
Um
don't know. Do you use AI in your day to day?
yeah, every single day.
Have you noticed
I
that it's less stressful now, because like
yes.
you don't feel like if you get stuck that like you have to really hope that something's out there, like you have an engaging source to be able to pretty much get past everything. So what I've noticed is that my coding experience has become way less stressful and intensive, because
Yes.
it's less about can I get my head in the right mode to solve this particular problem, and more about I know the problem I'm trying to solve. I'm looking 10 steps down the road. I need you to help me put the pieces together to allow me to get there. So for me, it's just been a lot less
100%.
stressful.
100%, like, it's more joyful to build, and it's like we can actually focus on what our users want, like you with Vuetify, you can actually focus on the features that community is asking for because you're not bogged down on a bug for, like, 5 weeks,
Oh yeah.
um, that, like, you and your other engineers, just can't seem to get because you have so many models at your disposal who,
Mm-hmm.
is able to spin up sub-agents to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's I
It's
think it's a
wonderful.
really fun time to be a developer. Um
Absolutely. Now, 5 years, I don't know, maybe we'll not have
I
jobs,
know,
right?
right?
But it's going to
Like
go way high before it crashes,
yeah.
because right now
Yeah.
I see two companies. I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day. I see two kinds of companies right now, is that companies that say we can get the same productivity for less, so
Mhm.
let's drop people. And then
Mhm.
other people that say we can keep the same people and get 5 times the output
Yes.
now. Like that's the only,
Yes.
like that's what I'm seeing right now. So honestly, it's like I think you said earlier, it's like it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah.
I don't call it vibe coding because I've got so many things that protect it with like ESLint and
Of
rules and
course.
skills and stuff like that, right? So it's like controlled vibe coding.
It's like vibe
You,
engineering, I heard someone
exactly.
say.
There you go. I'm giving more credit, but it's just way more productive. If for me,
I
because
agree,
I've been
John.
building foundational pieces for so long, that to
Yeah.
me, lining them up and getting that, like having the baseline pieces and giving that to the AI, means that it's able to do more with it. And because Vuetify
Yeah.
is known, and there's some decent training for it on models, like just been getting a lot of it's been really fun to build. Like I said, everything that's in the Vuetify Zero docs is built using Vuetify Zero and Uno CSS, modern tech
Nice.
stack. for for most people. Vue,
Nice.
and CSS.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a question and I lost it. Someone is asking, will there be MD3 updates and MD3 expressive? Is that relating to Vue or Vuetify? Some components still use MD2 and segmented buttons, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And the answer is yes. Actually, version 4 was kind of the start of this. We moved a couple of features over to MD3. Uh, the the elevation updates, the breakpoint updates, typography updates, and right now, yes, the framework is in a lot of cases. We have kind of a couple different types of components. We have components that only existed in Material 1, and they kind of have that styling. We have some components that have only existed in Material 2, and some that have only existed in Material 3. So we kind of have a large collection of different types of material design kind of poking together, and that's obviously not a great experience. So what Vuetify Zero solves with this is one of the features that we've pulled out and made public is the theme system, and it's super easy to set up design systems of any structure. And what will end up happening, hopefully by the end of this year, but maybe sooner, is the style that you're using will be 100% from a configuration. So Vuetify will have no default setup, but if you select Material 3, then the expectation will be that everything is styled with MD3. There's also a lot of changes that are going to be coming to how we give that styling to the users. It's going to make it a lot easier, but not to go off on a long rant. We are definitely tightening the noose around Material Design 3. We have people that looking at that actually worked with the Material Design Expressive system in some projects. So it's something that the expectation is that there will be configs, blueprints, kind of like we have now, just a little more built out, I guess, more options in them. And then the expectation for you would be that, yeah, whenever you use that particular design system, it actually, and I'm not like going to break new news here, but essentially one of the things is it's not every single design system is going to have the same components. And since all of the baseline of the components that we build in Vuetify are being distilled down to Vuetify Zero and Vuetify Paper, essentially when you use Material 3, you're only going to have features that exist in that Material 3 package because it will be created with only the functionality needed to recreate that design system. Same thing with any other design systems that we support. So the idea is there may be 15 or 20 components that don't even end up in one particular design system because they don't exist in it, but it's something that we offer at a lower level. And then in Vuetify, the idea is that it's all complete and together. Mm-hmm. It's all of the components no matter what. So even if you select like Material 3, then we will have gone in there and updated components that existed in Vuetify to make sure they look as close to their material design selection as possible. Hopefully that answered your question.
Hopefully that answered the question. Seemed like a pretty comprehensive response to me.
Sorry.
But yeah, as we wrap up here, John, anything you want people to know about Vuetify or, where to find you or anything that's coming up that you'd like to say?
Absolutely. So if you're into social media, follow myself on X at Zero Skills with a Z. Also have the Vuetify X at VuetifyJS. But our Discord is a very popular place to come communicate with us. The whole team is always on there. You can hop on and interact with the development team and pick our brains about stuff. And yeah, check out Vuetify 4 just came out, and definitely keep an eye on Vuetify 0, which will be releasing into production June of this year.
Nice. Nice. Well, congrats on all the work. It's been I can't believe it. You said it's been what, since 2016 and still going. And now, you're full-time in it. You have a team, you have, a thriving community. I think this is incredible. And, I wish you all the success in this
Thank you.
crazy AI world.
Thank you. Yeah.
As things move so fast. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining. This has been Open Source Friday. Yeah, see you later. Bye. Oh, I forgot.